Hey everyone, today we're reading some of the darkest and most disturbing confessions people have shared anonymously on Reddit. Let's get into it. First confession. I am an absolutely deplorable, vile, wretched human being. Very long. I noticed that I've been out of high school for almost 9 years the other day, and in a little over a year, I will be at my 10-year high school reunion. A bout of depression set in when I realized how far I have fallen over the last decade. My life has not turned out at all like I had dreamt as a fresh-faced HS grad. For reference, I am homeless and poor. I work in a job that I hate, that makes my college degree completely useless. That doesn't pay enough, although it seems like it should on paper. I am engaged to my girlfriend of 7 years, who is losing her mind to what I strongly suspect is paranoid schizophrenia. My once decent relationship with my family is now anemic and bitter. I blame the world at first, of course. Then, as I began to reflect on my life and take responsibility for my choices, I realized that, for my entire life, I have been a total piece of shit, and that my life is beginning to sound like the backstory of a serial killer, serial R-word, terrorist, or mass murderer. Beware, this confession has triggers for anybody who has been hurt or abused by anyone. I am not a good person at all. For starters, I am a raging sex addict and sexual deviant who has, and is still committing, several sexual acts. I became addicted to porn at the age of 8 or 9. My mother, my primary caretaker, passed away when I was young, after which I went to live with my paternal grandmother. One of my adult cousins, who likely has mental issues, lived there as well. I built a relationship with him around a love of comic books, which he collected. At some point, I noticed that he had a massive collection of porn magazines as well, and an addiction was born. I would break into his locked room and steal several porn mags at a time while he was away. It didn't help that I grew up in the age of the internet boom. I had probably viewed more porn than my cousin had in his entire life. I was a latchkey kid, and from the time I got home from school until when my grandmother returned from work, it was all porn, all the time. Summer vacation meant short stints of being a normal child to long, unhealthy sessions of porn consumption, which quickly went from standard hardcore sex to stuff like scat, golden showers, and bestiality. All years before I could even physically orgasm and ejaculate. This culminated in my first actual crime. I stole my grandmother's credit card to buy a subscription to a porn star's website. I have never admitted this to anyone. From here, things got worse, albeit slowly and in fits. I am the second oldest male of my generation in my family. I used this position to my cousins. I also tried to R-word him, but I couldn't fit. I am not, nor did I even consider the idea of being gay. I just wanted to stick my dick in something and emulate my porn movies. It only happened one time, and we never spoke of it again. I saw him years later, and he seemed to be well adjusted. Perhaps it was just me hoping against hope that he had forgotten. Another time I got caught staring at the cousins when if I remember correctly, and while going to replace it, I decided to take a closer look. I never molested any of the girls explicitly after that, although I did teach them to suck on my finger as if they were giving blowjobs one time. Keep in mind that I was close with my cousins, and we all lived together for stretches at a time. Being an only child, they were more akin to my brothers and sisters than cousins. Beyond that, every single dog we've owned since I moved in with my grandmother has been molested by me in some way or another. Males, females, doesn't matter. Sometimes it wasn't even my dog. One time I was alone with my buddy's dog. She had always been kind of a bitch, no pun, and sometimes growled a little when I would pet her. This time, I was rubbing her belly and decided to finger her, after which she warmed right up to me. This behavior continues to this day. In college, I discovered webcam sex through sites like Chatroulette and began to show off and masturbate to scores of strangers over the internet, despite having been committed to my current, innocent, kind-hearted girlfriend for years. Yes, the one developing mental issues. I told you I'm an awful person. I still do it. I'm planning on doing it later tonight because I'm alone for once. No, she does not know. Or at least I'm doing my best to hide the fact. I've developed an exhibitionist fetish and I'm getting very close to being that guy wearing nothing but a trench coat. I have whipped my junk out on public transportation, in traffic, on small errands. I have ejaculated in nearly every place I've worked, multiple times. I have masturbated in public, in libraries, in gyms, in schools, in my car, you name it. Just this week, my cybersex habit has become predatory. I've started to prey on girls younger than 18. At this very moment, sits on my screen an image of a supposedly Polish girl's, which I convinced her to trade with me over email. Yes, I have orgasmed to it repeatedly. Last year, I started to secretly frequent strip clubs, every visit getting more and more raunchy and expensive. I have tried to finger/eat out girls giving me lap dances, and if a girl were to offer me a low enough price, and prices have been offered, I doubt I would strongly hesitate to have sex with her there and then. I haven't yet. I'm more than a little afraid that I'll eventually work my way up to trying to straight up a stripper. Just another item to the long, sordid list of things that I've resolved to never, ever tell my sweet, trusting, fragile girlfriend. And while I have convinced myself that I truly love my girlfriend, I continue to think of how I never wanted to be with her in the first place. With her steadily deteriorating mental state, these thoughts of disappointment become more frequent instead of normal thoughts of concern for a loved one's suffering. For reference, I believe that I settled for her, back when we started dating in college. She is my first and only actual romantic and sexual partner. I always wanted to fall in love growing up, but I was hopelessly inept around women. Socially awkward, self-conscious, and immature, I always felt like I fell short with the opposite sex. I was also your standard issue nice guy trademark, putting women up on a pedestal, trying to manipulate women with my niceness, endlessly lamenting being put into the friend zone. I probably had more than a few creepy stalker moments. By the time I made it to college, I was wallowing in depression and feeling as if I was going to be celibate for the rest of my life. My future girlfriend and I ran into each other on the first day of her freshman year. We had graduated from the same high school, and she had had a crush on me then. I rejected her the first time because I was not attracted to her, but by college I was so depressed and desperate that I just rolled over AMD accepted. Eventually, I came to love her and think of her as my life partner, but I still regret my decision, as much of how my life has turned out stems from that moment. But I'm too weak and in too deep to break it off. We have been together 7 years and are supposed to get married, even though I am strongly against it in our current situation. I have never had the backbone to stand up for myself, to be assertive, to do the right thing, even if it's hard. It's led in some way or another to a lot of my current life problems. I have no integrity and no sense of self. I'd very much rather fall for everything than stand for anything, have my entire life, which leads to the last of my outright evil behaviors, small animal. I roll over for everyone and try to be the people pleaser, but that doesn't mean my resent goes away. I just direct it towards something that cannot fight back and cannot tell me to stop. There was a stray cat that I played with as a child. One day, I decided to tie its tail around a railing. It eventually got free and fled from me, stopping to give me the most heartbroken look I've ever seen. I suppressed the pang of guilt and stared back wickedly, grinning as I began to throw rocks at it. I never saw the cat again. I have no idea why I did it. My younger cousins used to have 2 pet hamsters, and I made their lives a living hell with a carnival of torture, nearly drowning them repeatedly, scorching their fur, locking them in a single hamster ball and throwing it down the stairs or along a long hallway like a bowling ball, pitching them like baseballs into couch cushions, flicking them hard across the face and belly with my fingers. I liked to hear them squeak in pain and fear. It was only after an intense session where I broke one's leg that I snapped out of it and realized why I had been doing it, because it made me feel powerful. Both hamsters died shortly after the leg-breaking incident. I have never told these things to anyone. That's the insidious part about it. I have always been able to maintain that normal veneer so well that even I never felt that I was anything less than a regular decent person. I have people that love me, people that think I'm a good person with a good heart, but they are wrong. I am evil, literally evil, and it's only a matter of time until I do something seriously terrible and take so many innocent lives down with me. So what do, Reddit? I turned 27 this year, and instead of being met with happiness, I was met with thoughts of suicide. Serious thoughts. Can I redeem myself? I am beginning to think not. I am so fucked up. Too fucked up. I started this post to get all this off my chest and feel better, but now I am sitting here, naked, staring to cry, singing one line from Les Miserables over and over. I had a dream my life would be so different from this hell I'm living. Help. Second confession. In 1999, I killed a man and his wife with a baseball bat for abusing me as a child in the early 90s. I got 20 years in a mental institution. I was born in 1983. We moved into this neighborhood in 1989. There was this guy who had a family, a wife, and 2 children that seemed pretty nice. However, we never really got to do anything with him. However, he would offer me soda and other drinks if I would go into his shed and look at her cars. The first time he sexually me was in 1993 when I was young. He showed me his cars, then pushed me down, and then put his penis. At first, I didn't know what was happening and didn't think much until I realized he was R-ing me. He then hit me and said if I told his wife or anybody about it, he would kill me. He even pulled a gun in my face once. It was disgusting. I couldn't sleep at night. I was scared to tell anyone. I didn't want to be known as a person who was abused by a neighbor, and it went on for almost 2 years. When I was turning 15, 1998, the full realization of what had happened hit me. I was R-word as a child. I became depressing and starting planning revenge. I had played baseball before, so we had some bats in the shed. I plotted to get revenge on him for ruining my life and relationships. It was January 25th, 1999. It was after 5 p.m., and I grabbed a camcorder and went out to the shed and grabbed a baseball bat. I told my mom was going to shovel his driveway. There was a snowstorm, but I wasn't. I knocked on his door, and his wife opened. I swung the bat at her, and she collapsed. Then I heard screaming from his kids. I had the camcorder in one hand and the bat in my other hand. I recorded the whole thing. He began to run. He was sitting on the couch watching TV. I chased him into the bathroom where I destroyed the door while screaming at him. When I broke it down, he was in the bathtub screaming as I swung the bat at him for 2 whole minutes. Every time I hit him, his face got worse. I just swung and never cared. I let him die while I ran into the room. I had put my camcorder down as I broke the door, and his kids were near his wife, who was knocked out. I told them to go in their rooms and to leave me alone. They were crying. I swung the bat at his wife a few times until she was dead. Then I called 911 and said I'd killed them. I killed both of them. They were dead. The prosecutor understood what had happened, and it was relieved that he had been beating his wife, and even his children sometimes. So they sent me to a mental institution, but they didn't charge me with murder. They said I had been affected by the abuse and that the killing of him was justified, but the wife was not. I was sent to the institution for 20 years, and now I'm out. I have no intention of committing any more crimes. Third confession. I killed 2 people and I felt nothing. It was years ago, but it haunts me to this very day. This wasn't a premeditated murder or revenge or a drug deal gone wrong. It was just me being in the wrong place at the wrong time, and I acted purely on instinct to protect myself. I was a junior in high school and had just gotten out of class on Friday when my older brother called me. He was taking his best friend Chris kayaking that weekend, and he wanted to know if I could go. I drove home as fast as I could and met him to load up our kayaks. We left home around 4:30 in the afternoon. After driving for 5 hours on the interstate, we exited and drove to a gas station to fill up. My brother stayed with the car while Chris and I walked into the gas station. I noticed 2 guys in their mid-20s arguing with the cashier when we walked in, but I ignored their yelling because the whole situation made me feel uneasy. I worked my way to the back of the store where the restrooms were. The yelling got even louder, so I turned around to see one of the men with a blue North Face jacket holding a pistol up in the air. He yelled, "Enough!" and brought the gun down and shot the cashier in the head. He started shooting into the store and breaking the glass doors to the refrigerated drinks. I freaked out and hid behind the closest display and started to hyperventilate. A manager came busting out of the back office right by me, and he had a pistol too. He tried to shoot the assailant, but he wasn't quick enough. The man in the North Face jacket shot the manager in the chest, and he collapsed about 10 feet from me. He was bleeding everywhere. The blood was just pouring out of him from his chest, and he was struggling to breathe. I crawled over to him since I had learned first aid as a Boy Scout. I applied pressure with my hands, but I knew it wouldn't make a difference. He was bleeding from his back too, and the floor was slippery from all the blood, and it was all over my knees from trying to help him. I realized he wouldn't live without immediate medical attention. The man in the jacket started shooting again. He shot the lights over the hot dog display that I had last seen Chris standing by, and then everything slowed down and became incredibly vivid and clear. I wiped my bloody hands on my shirt, reached over the manager's body, grabbed the pistol, pulled the slide, and stood up. I had fired a gun before. My dad taught me when I was younger. I aimed at the second man and shot him in the leg. The recoil of the shot caught me off guard because it was much more powerful than I expected. The man in the jacket turned around and looked me in the eye. He seemed shocked that I had just shot his accomplice. He kinda shook his head like he had no clue what had just happened, and then he started to raise his own pistol. I shot him twice in the chest, and he fell backwards and dropped his gun. His accomplice was screaming in pain and started to crawl towards the gun on the floor. I started yelling at him to stop moving, but he didn't listen. As soon as he reached the gun, I shot him in the back twice, and he didn't move anymore. I remember the police coming and asking me to sit down on the curb outside while the paramedics got the manager. I remember the clarity and the vividness while I was holding the gun slowly fading as I told the police what happened. The paramedics asked me if I was hurt because I was completely covered in blood. I remember my brother sitting by me and putting his arm around me while they asked me millions of questions and different police officers told me I had done the right thing. I remember going to some type of insurance case thing for the manager where I told a bunch of lawyers and police officers what had happened. I remember a man coming up to me and saying I had saved the manager's life by doing what I had done. I still see that man's shocked face as he turned around and saw me holding the gun. I remember the look of confusion he had as he fell down with 2 gunshot wounds in his chest. I remember everything about that night. Out of all the things I remember, I don't remember ever being asked how I felt having just killed 2 people. The only thing worse than nobody asking is the fact that I felt nothing. Absolutely nothing. And that is what horrifies me. I killed 2 people that I had never met, and I felt absolutely nothing while I was doing it. Fourth confession. I remembered I abused my pets as a kid, and I can't live with myself. I'm shaking with stomach pains as I write this, but if I don't share it now, I might actually not survive. The guilt has gotten too unbearable. I'm not looking for sympathy because I don't deserve it. I know this will get tons of hate, and that is all deserved. I'm the worst type of person in the world, and I don't know how or why it happened, but I can't live with myself anymore. When I was a kid, young enough to not know any better, but old enough that I should have, I guess, I abused my pets, 1 cat and 1 dog. I won't sugarcoat it, I occasionally used them for sexual gratification. I'm female, so there was no penetration of any kind, but I essentially used the warmth of their body and rubbed up against them. This went on for I think roughly 2 years, mostly with the cat, and I'm fucking disgusted by it. I hate myself every second that goes by. I never ever thought what I was doing was animal abuse. I loved animals and I still do, but for some reason I thought what I was doing was harmless and wouldn't affect the animals at all, that it was weird but not bad. When I got older and learned that what I did was bestiality and that it is animal abuse, I felt my body start to reject itself in a sense. I honestly can't tell you why I did it. I don't think I was ever sexually attracted to them, just curious and lonely and sexually frustrated. I had /have intrusive thoughts and couldn't make them stop and decided to act on them out of desperation. Looking back, I also suspect previous sexual encounters as I'm hesitant to say SA as I have experienced that relatively recently, karma I suppose, may have contributed to my skewed understanding of sex, consent, and morals as a whole. But none of this is an excuse. I didn't even really connect the pieces until this year. It doesn't matter though. I can't tell anyone, can't apologize to the animals because it's been so long. I was able to convince my parents to send the cat away when I got older, and I can only hope she found a better, more loving family, but I blame myself endlessly for letting it get to that point. I think my recent SA has made these memories come out of hiding, or at least is making me face the music, because no matter what happened to me, I deserved it. I deserve every bad thing that happened and is going to happen to me, because how much more disgusting, more dangerous, more horribly morally fucked up can you get? People tell me I'm kind and a good person and deserve to be happy, but they have no idea what I've done and how wrong they are. I've disappointed everyone, lied to everyone about who I truly am. It doesn't matter how remorseful I am, how different I am today, and how long ago it was, I can't go back and change it. I did it. I'll have always done it, and that makes me want to die more than anything. The only reason I haven't is because I'm too scared of death. To anyone who has taken the time to read all this, thank you, and I'm sorry. I hate the thought of exposing people to this fucked up shit, but I'm lost. I can't lose my therapist, other counselors are on a wait list. I can't go to confession because I'm not religious, and if I told my friends or family, I would lose every single one of them, and I'm too much of a coward to lose more people I care about in my life. I'm just so fucking sorry. Fifth confession. I killed my own pet while I was tripping on acid. NB, this happened a few years ago, and this is a throwaway account. TLDR, I took acid and killed my pet lizard. It was my 3rd time taking acid. The first time was awesome, the second, not so much. But it had been a few months and I got a few trips cheap, so why not? My parents bought me a blue tongue skink for my 16th birthday and I was 19 at the time. The skink, which I named Blue, so original, is quite a low-maintenance pet and an overall beautiful creature. I loved taking him out, letting him explore new surroundings and sometimes hand-feeding him. I loved this guy so much I would handle him every day and sometimes just watched him and how he moved around. He was such an interesting and unique pet. Anyway, it was a Saturday afternoon and my parents had gone away for the weekend. I'm an only child, so I had the place to myself. I dropped the acid 5 minutes after they left in the morning. Naturally, a few hours had passed and I was tripping kinda hard. I was playing some video games to ease myself into it, but now it was becoming too difficult to play. I felt uneasy wasting my trip playing video games, so I grabbed a drink, put on some electronic music, and went to sit outside in the sun. Lost in my own thoughts, there was a palpable feeling of loneliness. I started pacing around only for my thoughts to increase in intensity. I went back into my room to watch a movie or something. As I walked into my bedroom, I glanced down at the side table to see if Blue was up and about. He was. Not only that, but he was propped up on his back legs clawing at the wall. Common behavior. I took this as a sign that the universe wanted me to take him out. Blue was very content with being held. He didn't wiggle around unless you held him incorrectly. I took him outside and I was sitting where I was before with him in my lap, letting him soak up some good old natural vitamin D. I started stroking his head slowly like I usually do. He enjoys head pats. I guess it's hard to know exactly what they like, but his eyes closed when I did it, which seemed to indicate he liked it. Every time I stroked down his scaly head, I felt the contours so vividly. I could almost feel his energy, or life force, or something being released as my fingers went down his body. It's like I could see something rippling away, like when you drop a stone in a lake. My attention was absorbed by this. It's hard to describe, but it's like I was in a trance-like state. It's the feeling you get when you're so intimately connected with another living being or certain activity. I pushed harder with every stroke and the ripples intensified and continued outwards. God, this is so hard to write. The unnecessary suffering I caused to an innocent animal, especially my own whom I loved. Blue was showing signs of discomfort, but I was too distracted with the ripples. Then it got to the point where I was pushing too hard. He couldn't get away because my grip under his belly was tightening. His little feet were pushing against my thighs, and he was squirming and twisting his body trying to get out of my grip. I don't know how long I held him here for. I had lost perception of time, which is really easy to do while tripping. I kept gripping and pushing down on his skull and body. I can only imagine all the pain that I was causing him. My phone rang and snapped me away from my temporary hypnosis. It was my mother, and I started to panic that they had to turn around or something. I don't remember dropping Blue because I was panicking, but I must have as I went inside to answer the call. She was just informing me of what food I could eat from the freezer. Because I had semi-freaked out over that phone call, I completely forgotten that I was outside. The unknown amount of time I spent hurting that poor animal was just removed from my brain. I went inside to watch a movie. It wasn't until a few hours later when Blue's terrarium caught my eye did my cruel actions come flooding back to me. I ran outside with a sick feeling in my stomach. I almost threw up when I saw him. Right in front of my seat in the grass lay Blue's mangled body, lifeless. I had a wave of anger, disappointment, and overall poignancy come over me. I can't believe what I had done. I bent down to pick him up. He was certainly dead. I don't know what killed him, whether I broke his back while gripping him or maybe when I threw him down, internal injuries. I don't know. I wasn't keen to investigate and make myself feel worse. I buried him in the backyard and gave some bullshit answer to my parents when they came back about accidentally feeding him the wrong food. They didn't know what food was and wasn't appropriate for him. My parents offered to buy me another, but I couldn't accept it, not after what had just happened. Not after what I had done to Blue. I don't deserve it. I still have dreams about this shit, usually more exaggerated and violent ones. Dreams where I crush his skill with my hands and I wake up feeling awful all over again. I'm a terrible person for doing this and I probably deserve those sleepless nights. I ended an innocent, beloved animal's only existence on this earth and there's nothing I can do to bring him back. I'm sorry, Blue.